Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Ask the Pastor. And maybe you're asking, why is the pastor wearing a motorcycle shirt? Well, the pastor is asking, when do we get back to motorcycling and when will we get warmer spring weather? Well, that's similar to a question that many of you have been asking, and that is, when will we get back to normal in the life of the church? When on a Sunday morning can we gather together for worship again? Good question, but as we consider that question, we want to realize that there are some very sad stories around us. We saw a sad story in the news recently about a church in Calgary that in mid-March, there were restrictions already put in place. They were trying to put into place good practices about safely gathering together. But they had a party of about 41 people, I think. 24 of them, unfortunately, came down with COVID-19, and 2 of them, unfortunately, died. And so that is a scenario that could happen again until a vaccine is found. So that's something we want to keep in mind as we ask the question, when do we get back to normal? It may be quite some time. And there's a few things we want to think about as we consider this question. First, we want to remember that Jesus has taught us to love our neighbor. We want to continue loving our neighbors by not putting them in harm's way. We don't want to do anything that could harm people around us by us being infected or putting people in a position of being infected. So as a church family, we want to make sure that we are loving our neighbor by keeping safe ourselves. Secondly, we want to ensure that we are being respectful of the government and respectful of the health experts as they give us guidance. And so we want to be doing things under their guidance as to when and how many people at a time and such things. So we want to be respectful of the government. Third, we want to certainly be considering the vulnerable people of our church family. We don't want to be putting any of them under any risk. Fourth, we want to be considering those who may be sensitive. Some people are gung-ho to get back together and are fearless, but others will have queasy feelings about getting together in a crowd. And so we want to be sensitive to how people might be thinking about gathering together with others. And lastly, we want to recognize that there won't be a switch that's flicked and suddenly we go from where we are now back to normal, but rather it will be in stages. And we might find that we are allowed to have small groups gather together first and then later on larger groups. But we'll just have to wait and see and keep deciding how we respond as we're giving directives from the government. So the answer to the question, when will we get back to normal? Not for quite some time, it sounds like. But there's something else that we want to say about this, and that is maybe we'll never actually get back to normal. And maybe we're asking the wrong question here. Maybe the question isn't when do we get back to normal, but the question rather is how do we move forward into what we can do in the future? The question really is now is, given the limitations put upon us, but also given the opportunities that we now have, how do we help people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love? And in 3 months down the road, we want to ask again, given the limitations, but also given the opportunities, how can we help people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love? And we want to ask that again in 6 months and a year down the road, even maybe 2 years down the road. We want to keep asking, what are the limitations, yet what are the opportunities? How can we help people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love? You see, the Great Commandment is still in effect. The Great Commission is still in effect. We want to look for the opportunities to be able to serve the Lord in the many ways that we can. And we want to be helping people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love. So we really don't want to be asking, how do we get back to normal? We always want to be asking, how can we step into the future of what the Lord is calling us to be and do as a church family so that we can help people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love. And so thank you for asking the question. Maybe it's not the answer you were looking for. I'm not sure I'm getting the answer I'm looking for either when it comes to getting back to motorcycling. But there we are. We do the best that we can, and we thank the Lord for every opportunity we have to glorify him and help people walk with Jesus in faith, hope, and love. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and thanks for joining us. God bless.